But at one point in time, or at some point in time, these same consumers, because we're so new in the game, are going to be creators. That would be the name of the game right now. We're 2 years in. Everybody that's in this game right now, that's in this space, at one point in time, 5 years from now, are going to be experts.
You're listening to KBcast, the cybersecurity podcast for all executives. Cutting through the jargon and hype to understand the landscape where risk and technology meet. Now, here's your host, Carissa Breen.
Jason, welcome back to the show. You're like the original OG. I think you were like one of my first 1 to 10 interviews, so going back a long time now. So I'm really keen to get you back on the show. Knowing you, it's probably going to be a level of intensity that's off the charts. So really appreciate good energy. I'm going to keep the energy through the whole interview today. So thank you for coming back. How have you been anyway?
I've been fantastic. Thanks for having me back. It's such a wonderful situation to be back on this podcast. It's been so long since we've reunited, but everything is up and up. You know, Black Alchemy is still in effect. I'm doing my thing and living my life, you know?
Yeah, wow. You're just going hard for everything security, which we're going to get into today. So let's get into it. NFTs, so also known as non-fungible tokens, but WTF, what is this? So many people are talking about this in the market, but you're already in this game. So just break it down as easily as you can, please.
Not a problem. So I'm going to keep away from the technical specificities of NFTs and go into the outlay so your audience can really digest it. When you think NFTs, first and foremost, an NFT or non-fungible token is a technology. It's more of a cryptological algorithm that specifies a lot of different capabilities. More commonly known, most people see NFTs as a digital image, and that's just the surface. The images that you're seeing are attached to smart contracts, which is a new technological advancement where, you know, digitally you can have contracts established based off of different criteria that are electronically stored on the Ethereum blockchain, which is a very innovative thing. There's endless possibilities in the NFT space. Just unfortunately, right now, a lot of people have the misconception that it is some form of digital art, when in fact, the digital art that you see is the overlay of an underlying technological backbone that is so vast, so expansive, and so endless possibilities that I believe, you know, everybody's going to be in the NFT space within a few years, whether that's in smart contracts with your utility bills, leveraging smart contracts for how you purchase vehicles, even, you know, to more recent terms, the use of, you know, electronic voting with smart contracts and NFTs through, you know, voting in our political systems. What you're looking at with NFTs and more specifics is a technology that allows transparency across the entire board. There is no room for, you know, back-end communications or let's just from a voting perspective, if you have an open ledger system or, you know, a blockchain type technology like NFTs, where people could purchase or they could opt in to their voting solution where everybody could see it. It's such a I'm so amazed by NFTs. It's such a wonderful technology. Unfortunately, right now the market is so inundated with negativity, and by negativity I mean people trying to make financial advantages over others, scammers. You know, there's a lot of things in the market that are causing people on the outside to look at it with a lot of skepticism. But when you think NFT moving forward, what you should think first and foremost is something along these lines. Back in the day, you know, I'm 40 years old. So back in the day, I would buy baseball cards and NBA basketball cards. And we're talking about the current NFT market. So back in the day, you buy a basketball card and it has, you know, the rookies and those special mints and the, you know, the one of ones and the one of 500s and those specialty cards that have certain values based off of the community that provides the value to it. For instance, if you weren't a basketball card trader, you probably don't see the value of having a LeBron James card. Now, excuse my references, I know they're pretty old, but if you don't see the value in it, then that's just not the market for you to have value in. With the NFT space, there are multiple communities, let's just say different distributors of their own basketball cards that have their own utility attached to these basketball cards. And I want to remove my the tag of basketball cards and now place, the NFT. When you join an NFT community, each NFT community is its own community. It's not connected to the old legacy systems like Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn, where these single companies had the power to control the voice, to control the narrative, to control the output, to control the valuation, to control the monetization of everything under their organizations. In the NFT space, however, you're looking at a technology where anybody can come in and create their own project based on their ability to engage people, based on their ability to create communities. They've established their own community of interest where you are part of a club in these NFT communities. Each one that you see, whether it's Bored Ape or Cool Cats, and I'm not dropping any names for anybody listening to say, oh, I want to go buy this. I'm mentioning ones that are pretty prominent in the market. But when you think about these big projects and even the small ones, here's what's really happening. You are adopting or inserting yourself into a community that's been established by the founders of that community, and they have their own rules, their own verbiage, their own language, their own code, and their own access to real life events. uh, the possibilities are very endless. However, it's really important to understand this is year 3. So what you're seeing, what everybody's seeing and hearing about NFTs, yes, there's money involved and there's valuation and people are getting rich, people are getting scammed, people are losing money, but we're looking at year 3. It's a very relatively new market, relatively new technology, and it has endless possibilities to incorporate innovations that will change the way we live, how we do business, how we conduct our healthcare systems, how we conduct our daily business. Our pattern of lives will change based off of how innovative people can be by leveraging the NFT technology.
Wow, thank you. I think that was a really great explanation. Okay, so a couple of things in there. Number one, you referenced basketball cards, so I agree. Now, I think what was coming up in my mind is if you look at society, and let's use LeBron James as an example, like he's number one basketball player. There's all this media press that how good he is, and he obviously wins all these basketball games. If I'm saying something incorrectly, I'm not massive basketball fan, so I apologize. So bear with me. But I think that that's what society deems that he is the best. So of course his basketball card has inherent value over perhaps, I don't know, another deck of cards which has no value, for example. And then I guess it's the same for like the luxury handbags market. Some people see value in buying a Chanel handbag because it's rare. There's only 10 of them made in the world for some particular design, for example. So it's the value goes up. But then I think a lot of that value is probably a lens being put on by society and by the media to say this is valuable. Because really at the end of the day, and I love bags as well, but it's just a bag. So how does that translate into the NFT space? So for example, we can sit there and say this thing's important to us and it's valuable, but then how do other people think that it's valuable?
Good question. Very good question. And it's funny, as art imitates life and light imitates arts. It's beautiful. So, just in the same vein of the demonstration or example that you gave about bags, to your point, bags can be created in your backyard, or you can go and spend thousands upon thousands of dollars on a Louis Vuitton bag, or Michael Kors, or whatever your taste is. However, when you buy into these brands, 99% of people that buy these brands are buying the brand's illusion, the marketing, the advertisement, the creation of that company's ability, or the development of that company's ability to advertise its value is really what makes it valuable in your eyes. I think we both know that a Louis Vuitton bag, the leather, the buttons, the upholstery, or the intricacies that are involved in these bags, definitely do not amount to the value that they go for in the stores. Nor do they equate to the value that other people put on them. And that's the same thing in the NFT space. In the NFT space, these images or these programs or these NFTs, let's just use that because remember, NFTs are a technology. It's not just a JPEG or it's not an image. It's a technology that is very, very, very complex, but beautiful and simple in the same time. However, when these communities build themselves up, right, and they say, hey, I'm going to create an NFT and I'm going to have the backbone of my NFT be focused on mental health. Now, I'm going to create an image that portrays my brand, like something like a logo, right? So you have logos, the Louis Vuitton logo, the Coach logo, or the Coach brand, or the image, or their trademark. In the same vein, NFT communities, or the people that found their own projects, they say, I'm going to establish a brand, and that brand is going to have recognition based off of the image. Now, to the valuation. How do we create value in that image? How does that one image or that one person, that person's art, or those group of people's art turn into or equate to a valuation that is, anywhere from 1 ETH to 25 ETH or $50,000 to $100,000? This is where it gets tricky. The NFT community is so relatively small. We're looking at, I'm not even going to get into the numbers, but it's relatively small. So the people that find value, number one, in cryptocurrencies already have an understanding of the Ethereum, or which is the backbone currency of NFTs. They have an understanding that Ethereum, it has its weight against the dollar. It's leveraged, functionally against the dollar in some form or fashion. So whatever you buy in at, it usually, or 99% of the time, it's done with Ethereum, which automatically inherits that value. Then the value that the community puts into the project. For instance, some projects come out with very innovative ways to create communities and say, look, if you buy into our NFT community, not only do you get to be a part of like-minded individuals who also bought into this product, but you have access to, for instance, mental health counseling. You have access to different memberships and private club entries, golf courses, yacht clubs. These are real things. So the valuation today, as it stands, is coming from the amount of utility that you can apply to the community of people that purchase your product. And in this case, the thing that is being purchased is the NFT. So it's just the same. It's the same formula, except it's been reduced to a macro level. Instead of you having the traditional brands of yesteryear, Coach, Fendi, Microsoft, where these big companies spend thousands of millions and billions of dollars advertising to create, number one, brand awareness, and to establish a brand function in your life, to integrate their brand into your mind, believing that it has utility into your life. The NFT community is doing that on a very macro scale. They're doing it individually. They're compartmentalized. It's not one company that owns NFTs and people are trying to buy silos of that to create communities and create revenue streams based off of that. That's not what's happening. These communities come together and they say, hey, listen, I'm thinking about creating an NFT project. What about mental health awareness, or about teaching people more about privacy? Okay, so what are we doing with that? Well, I want to create an image, and this is, of course, I'm, paraphrasing, but I'm creating an image, and I want that image to convey not only a brand, whether it's a monkey, a dog, a sea leg, or a bell, whatever that image is, for all intents and purposes, it's a brand that represents that community. Now, the people that decide to become part of that community have to be enticed. You have to entice through marketing, through, right now, the main space where people are really pushing their product, unfortunately, in my opinion, is on Twitter. You get, and they call it in this space, alpha. Alpha is the term that's leveraged to communicate incentives or valuable intelligence about a project, similar to what's done on Twitter advertising. So these projects create their own buzz based off of their own ability to establish, number one, a story, just like in traditional business. What is the story of the NFT? Well, some of it is science fiction, some of it's fiction, some of it's proper science. Different domains. There's no silo that keeps people contained. The the possibilities are endless when it comes to what you can create with NFTs. So they go in and they say, okay, well, we're going to create our story. Our story is this: I was a guy and or I was a female, and I went to the military. I got PTSD from a lot of time in Iraq and Afghanistan, and now I'm realizing that there are a lot of people out here who need help, and I want to be able to provide help to these people. And the way that the way that I plan on doing that is to create an NFT, and I'm going to, over a period of time, I'm going to project out a roadmap. I'm going to give everybody on our website what I intend to do when I sell this project. Now, this is just one formula of creation of NFTs, but here's what, follow me for a second. I'm going to create a roadmap, and I'm going to establish in that roadmap, based off of how many NFTs I sell, how much money is driven into the project. These are the things that I'm going to provide to the 10,000, to the 5,000 people that are a part of my community. Free healthcare. I'm going to establish a relationship with Cigna Health and Humana. And anybody that joins into this community that spends this $4,000 on one of these images, that is actually a smart contract that actually says legitimately that inside of this purchase, you will have access to healthcare, and this type of healthcare, and these types of different services. And then once that idea is formulated, and they get together with a graphic designer, they get together with a smart contract developer, and then of course you have all the other developers involved that create the economy and the entire universe of that NFT. Then they tie in the services. That's what they're supposed to do, and we'll get into that later. They get into the services. They legitimize all of the offerings that they say that they're going to offer, and then they tie it into the smart contract, and bam, now you have the base premise of mental health solutions based off of the procurement of an NFT, or more commonly understood as an image that has given you a key to unlock elements of mental health. And now you're surrounded with a lot of other people that are on the same vein. Now, that group of people in that one silo, and we're specifically talking about this example of mental health, that group of people are literally in a self-contained environment. There's no infrastructure. There's no top core company that can say at any given time, hey, you know what? I don't think that mental health is a good idea. Or let's take away the conspiracy and add more reality to it. At no point in time, other than, over time when the legal aspects become more mature, but at no point in time can, what's a good healthcare company? Let's just say CVS. CVS can't say, well, listen, we don't like this idea of people getting free healthcare on your product, so we're going to stop, one of our services, which is going to impact you. That can't happen. NFT communities are siloed. They're self-contained organizations, if you will. An organization is not really the name to use, but they're self-contained entities that establish their own community. They're like their own, and I'm going to use a strong word, their own organizations, own gangs, own tribes. Tribe is a better word. They're their own tribes. And these tribes have their rules. They have their bylaws. They have their affiliations. They have their rankings. And instead of having a basketball card where you have to pull it out of a folder and say, hey, man, I collect basketball cards too. And the value of that basketball card is based off of the creator, like Upper Deck, which is the company, one company that makes basketball cards, or trading cards rather. Upper Deck is going to create the valuation because of how many cards they mint, how many of them are star players, how rare they are. That whole construct, like Upper Deck did for the entire masses of card collectors. Now take that to a very condensed level and say, oh, these micro communities are creating their own rarity, their own valuations of specified cards or specified NFTs. Certain NFTs have different traits and certain access points that may cost more money, and that creates its own value. So to your original questions, I didn't mean to go around my neck to get to my foot, but the valuation is determined by the people that find value in it, number one, but it's up to the community to influence or to encourage people that the value is what it is. So I say that to say, a little comma, there are a lot of projects. I would say about 85 to 95% of projects out there today that there is no logical formula that exists that can accurately determine how the value was derived in that project. It's just out of the blue.
So what I'm hearing, thank you for that. So what I'm trying to follow, and correct me if I'm wrong, the only people that really matter are the ones probably in the community. So for example, if I created KB's Labrador community, the only people that are going to care and put value on it are the people that equally love Labradors, not someone that loves potting plants, for example. That's not doesn't they don't find value in that. So is it more so it's a lot smaller and it's more sort of close knit rather than like going macro and it's we got to find value in everything. Like it's the people are going to find value in that as people who like dogs, for example, or Labradors versus someone else that's doing something completely different. They may not find value in that. Is that what I'm hearing that you're saying, or do I have this wrong?
No. You actually have it spot on. The value is based off of the people who find value in it. To your example, if you're creating a Labrador project, the Labrador project may not be valuable or have any kind of interest to a person who's a cat lover.
Yes, and that's where I'm getting at. So I think that's perhaps where people may be confused on how it works. Because everyone's like, oh, who would find value in that? I'm like, well, I don't know. I think someone said that they have an NFT project and it's about how the sun shines on the moon. That is very random. I've never thought of that, but that maybe people find value in that. So for me, I don't find value in that personally, but other people may. So is that what you're saying? Like, for example, okay, I'm going, I'm just trying to come up with this as I'm speaking to you. Certain stores I find more value in than other stores. I don't like camping stores. I don't find value. I don't like camping. But clothing stores, sure, that's a very different conversation. But then someone equally who likes camping may not like clothing stores. Does that make sense?
It does. And unfortunately, you're just scratching the surface of how that interest is pulled in psychologically. So think about it like this. While you have a friend or associate, I forgot how you identified that person, but they are creating something, an NFT project about how the sun hits the moon or how the moon reflects the sun. Wonderful project. I don't find interest in anything from, I don't find interest in that at all. Not right now. I don't see an interest. However, if I was on Twitter and the ability of that project owner to engage people on Twitter, holding spaces, not only talking about how the sun hits the moon, but if they also go into how the moon affects the diurnal cycle of the human body, and that may pique my interest. And then that person says, hey, everybody who gets a part of this project, number one, we're going to have a yearly tour down to NASA, and we're going to get to look at the Space Center, and then we're going to go to SpaceX. And then that says, okay, well, I didn't care about the moon hitting the sun, but you know what? For 2 ETH, I can be, every year I can go see Elon Musk and actually possibly maybe be on a list to go to the moon. Those marketing tactics, those incentivized baiting solutions or situations are what makes the interest more compound. And I hope that hit the mark. Yeah.
That makes more sense. I mean, that would entice me a bit more. But then how true is that? Because you said you got a smart contract, but then it's like, is that just null and void? Because it's like, oh, it's a NFT. Like, maybe the legal system it's not regulated. So how do you enforce it?
Right. And that's where we are now. So in the last 2 months specifically, we've seen the DOJ, the Department of Justice, take some serious positions on pursuing people that are not fulfilling the contractual obligations that they advertise in their NFT project, which is phenomenal for two sides of one coin, right? One side, you're looking at the United States actually saying, we understand this crypto, we understand that it's real. And not only do we understand it's real, we're going to establish some kind of framework to go after people who don't do the things that they say they do in the project. That's one. Number two is, okay, now there's agency in it. Now that people, because when it first started, like you said, there was no regulation.
there are rugs, and that's what the terminology is used in the space when you have a project that solicits or advertises that this is what they're going to do, and then all of a sudden, after all of the images are sold, or after all of the NFTs are sold on the marketplace, the owners and the founders just disappear because most people are not transparent. They haven't fully disclosed who they are behind these projects. And yes, you're probably saying to yourself, then why the heck would I invest into a situation where it's kind of shaky and I don't understand who's behind it? Well, that's just where we are. That's just where we are. There are projects out there where nobody is known by their real identity, and then they just disappear with 25 million, 50 million, 100 million. So do people
What?
oh god, 50 million? Yes, that's a whole different show. That's a whole 5 hours to talk about the rug pulls and the scams and the hustles. Listen, there are people, I'm going to tell you like this. There are people that I know for a fact were probably living in a 1-bedroom apartment 8 months ago, no, 9 months ago, that are living in mansions in Puerto Rico now because of an NFT project, and they didn't do anything. They did a few Twitter spaces.
But is it legit?
No, well, is what legit?
So okay, so this person that you people that you've referenced, you said they're living in 1 bedroom, now living in some mansion and wherever. But is that through scheming people they got the mansion, or because of legitimate ways?
In my definition, I don't believe that. I believe that legitimacy is a very strong word. Do I believe that those people, this person in particular, did everything on the up and up? Like they said what they were going to do. They applied truth and understanding and honesty into the product they were delivering? Absolutely not. They went out and they got connected with a group of other people who were not necessarily nefarious and not necessarily scammers. They just knew how to manipulate people, which is no different than what Google does and what Facebook does with their ads, and enticing you and manipulating you to buy a product that you probably don't need. And when you get the product, you're like, I don't really want this. And then by that time, you've already spent $50 or $100. $100 times 25,000. You do the math.
So then what happened to that person? They just disappeared off the face of the earth. And then what happens? Do people try to come after them? Well, they can't, because they can't identify them.
Well, that's why we have companies like mine, and there's a few other companies that's what we specialize in.
So are you trying to get this dude, or what? Like, can you answer that?
Yeah, I can answer that. We did expose that person, and that person did. They're undergoing some serious repercussions from a legal system, and also the community's upset. So think about it like this: it's not just the legal system that people are starting to rattle now. You're talking about VCs who are, investors of major companies that are jumping behind certain projects. And some of these projects are collaborating with other projects to increase their visibility, to increase their brand standing, to create more agency in their project. And then, because there are no background checks, because there's no proper vetting process, now you have a situation where, people are linking up with other projects that may be shady, but they didn't know they were shady. And now you've got really upset, highly powerful people looking to find out who other people are for whatever reason. And I'm trying to speak in between the lines. You've got, let's just say, it's the streets out here. You've got people really upset. They just, you just lost $25 million. And now you want to find out who was behind it. Now you're hiring every cowboy and every cyber investigator to go in there and try to unmask these people and do whatever act of ungodly holy that you want to do on them because you feel like you got slighted. And is that common? Absolutely. Right now it is.
Wow. But how common are we talking here? Like 8 and 10 scams, or 1 in 10, or like what are the numbers here?
So when we use the word scam, please define scam. Scam is anything where it's just nefarious in nature. What?
Well, I think, okay, let's go with like financial loss. So the 25 million type. I mean, maybe not necessarily that level all the time, but like people who lost money over these NFT scams.
Yeah. Oof. So I would say, and I'm going to be very conservative, I'll say 3 out of 10. Oh, more than that. 6 out of 10, unfortunately, projects are
What?
Well, let's redefine scam. Scam, let's use the word rug.
So losing money though, that's quite high. That's beyond.
Well, that's a risk you take, and that's the problem with the NFT space.
Oh man, I'm not ready to take that risk. Stuff that.
Wait. Don't. That's because you're thinking about the NFT space, or getting into NFTs for financial gain. When you shift your paradigm, which that's what the market's going to do. That's why we're in a bearish market right now. But when you shift your paradigm and say, okay, well, there's more than gaining money. Somebody buying an NFT so they can flip it 2 weeks later for 3 times its value. Yeah, that's where you lose. You're going to lose every time, because those types of projects, we call them flipper projects, those flipper or PFP, profile picture projects, they don't really have any serious value. They just have a lot of hype. And when you invest into a project that has hype, you're going to fall always, every time. And unfortunately, the hype concentration in the NFT space is exponentially high.
But what if I legitimately saw a project and I thought, okay, I actually like this, not for financial gain, but more so I believe in it. Let's use the Labrador example, and I put money behind it, and then I got scammed. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what I would personally be apprehensive.
Okay, so there's always a solution to that, and that's one of the big things that everybody talks about. Every one of the truth bearers, if you will, in the space is this: number one, because there's a cash grab, and because a lot of people are looking at the financial incentive in the NFT space, there are a lot of scammers. So how do you watch out for scammers? How do you watch out for people who are just making a good illusion for you to join, and as soon as you join, and as soon as they sell their number, they leave? Number one, do your research. You've got to do your research. Like, don't just look at the website and say, "Oh, I like Labradors. They have pictures of Labradors. They say that I should trust them. Let me spend 10,000 for one of their images." No, or one of their NFTs rather, because this NFT gets me access to all of the Kennel Club, you know, pedigree, shows, whatever. Do your research. Number one, verify all of the claims. Every NFT project has what's called a roadmap. Personally, I believe that the roadmap scenario is akin to the pitch deck scenario when you're going after investments, or any kind of financial bootstrapping for your business. It's the same thing. What are you going to do with the money? Every NFT project has one. They have a roadmap. Look at these roadmaps. Identify where you are in the roadmap. Like, are you on phase 1, phase 3, phase 7? Okay, so you jump in at phase 7 of a project that's already done, 6 other phases. Go into the Discord or go into their community, ask and see, look for the quantifiable evidence that they achieved every one of their roadmaps. And that should give you a little bit more confidence on your wanting to involve yourself with that project. Number two, how transparent is that project? Now, remember, we're talking about NFTs that are primarily premised under the Ethereum cryptocurrency, which is where you have, it's a blockchain based technology. So you have the ability to look and see the transactions, look at the wallet size of the project. Are they spending their money in the project, or, by reinvesting it into different things to achieve their roadmap? Or are they posting pictures? Are the owners posting pictures on their Twitter of Maseratis and Lamborghinis and yachts in a country that you have never been to? Look at those things. Look at the ego. Look at the words that they say. There are ways to basically narrow down projects that are less susceptible to being rugged or scams. But a lot of people don't do that. People walk blindly into this space and they listen to other people instead of doing their own research. They follow a few Twitter handles. They pay somebody for some insider information, and then they invest $20,000. 6 months later, the project doesn't exist. I think that's actually quite common, unfortunately. But that's not to say that the market is not going to be something grand. We're talking about Fortune 500. That we have multiple organizations that are really now starting to put their tracks into it. You have artists now who, traditionally you'd have to go through a distributor and have a producer, and you'd have to have all this. You have to sell your soul and the soul of your babies to even get into the music industry. And now you have artists that are coming out, self-producing, leveraging their NFT art or their NFT music. Because remember, it's not just a picture. There's people doing film, and they're leveraging their NFT creativity to finance the program to create a situation that is actually going to be viable for them and the people around them. And that's what you're seeing in the artist community, especially. You're seeing, the quote unquote starving artists now actually taking 75% of every sale instead of 2 cents of every sale, on their work. Same thing with the artists. the people who actually do art, who do graphic designers, who actually do real art. Those artists are now having their platform to establish themselves and their brand on their own terms, not following under the big corporate types or the very draconian contracts that some of these studios have, and also the thieving ones that they don't come out with anything at all. Now you have the opportunity as an artist, as a creator, as an entrepreneur, as a politician, to establish not only your own community based off of your ability to innovate, advertising and marketing and establishing a voice within yourself, but now you have a way to finance it, and now it's legitimate. So it's a 50-50 when you look at risk and reward. You have to say to yourself, okay, why am I in this space? Am I in this space to create a community? Am I in this space to change the world? Am I in this space to run for political office? What am I doing here? Now you have the ability to do it. You don't have the censorship of the big corporate types or the big tech industries who have that ability to silence you on Twitter or Facebook. And I'm not knocking any of these platforms. Obviously, we're leveraging the technology now on certain elements. What I'm saying is now the power is in the hands of the creator to do things that they couldn't even dream up 5 years ago. And that's what we have to stay focused on when we think about NFTs. Is the market a little bit, and I'm going to use a very lower vibration term, is the market inundated with shady activity? Absolutely. Same thing was with crypto 10 years ago. When you first got into Bitcoin, you got into all these other cryptocurrencies. Everybody was IPOing or ICOing, and then they were just falling off until, everybody stood up and said, hey, I'm not going to deal with this anymore. I want to have viable, security about the investments I have. And then the market established its own rules of regulation. And now we are at a place where, even though crypto is a little bit unstable at the moment, it has more legitimacy than it did 5 to 10 years ago. And that's where we are with the NFT community. Give it time.
So there was something that came out in Bloomberg that Bill Gates made a statement saying that NFTs are shams based on greater fool theory. What are your thoughts on that?
I can resonate with that message. I understand where it comes from. From an outside looking in, and Bill Gates most definitely is not an outsider, but he's definitely not an insider in the game. He probably has a large team of people around him giving him insights on how the market currently is. What he just said, or what that statement says, is that he's seen it from where it is now, not the value that it could, or the potential that it could have at a later time. Yes, he's spot on. It's definitely almost a fool's errand and I'm using my words very wisely, but it's almost a fool's errand right now. It's for anybody to jump into anybody else's project, especially when you can create your own. The name of the game in the NFT space is to create, not to be a consumer. And in 5 years, mark my words.
But don't you need the consumers though to buy into it?
Everybody needs fuel.
That's what I'm saying. Because you were saying with the scams that people were buying $25,000, whatever you were saying, or $25 million they put into this thing and then they got scammed. Someone has to buy into it at some point. We can't all just sit there and be creators. We need other people to fuel that creation.
Right. But here's the beauty of that. So the scenario we're in now, where you need people to fuel it, because there's so much skepticism in the market, nobody's buying into the foolery of yesterday. Now you have to come better. Before, all you had to do is create a website, spend maybe $500 on the dark net to get a stolen or a compromised or a tradable verified Twitter account. Change the Twitter account, create a name for your project. Now you have a verified mark. Then you go hire some influencers. You call, and these influencers now are just they're the real scammers. Don't get me started on that. But you call up an influencer. You call up Floyd Mayweather. Yeah, I use that name for a reason. And you say, hey, I'm going to pay you $1 million just to put your name on the back of my NFT. And now I'm going to use your name to sell my legitimacy. And then Floyd Mayweather and the entire team takes away with $7 million. Those days are over now, because unless you're a new person coming in and all you're doing is hearing information about the NFT community from scammers, but everybody in the NFT community knows now, hey, don't trust influencers. So now creators are being forced to create more robust, more intricate, more elaborate programs and projects that will entice people to adopt into not only adopt into the NFT game, but adopt into their ideology or their idea of what an NFT project is. So What am I saying in more precise and concise terms? The maturity of the NFT space has now forced the creators to develop more elaborate and intricate systems to bring in new adopters of the NFT, let's just say technology, into their lives. So, yes, those new consumers that are coming in, they're the fuel. But at one point in time, or at some point in time, these same consumers, because we're so new in the game, are going to be creators. That would be the name of the game right now. We're 2 years in. Everybody that's in this game right now, that's in this space, at one point in time, 5 years from now, are going to be experts into a very highly complicated, highly complex system. And they're going to have the ability to consult, give advice on how to create better. And that's how any architecture that works. That's, just looking at, the human progression. We take lessons from our past and we understand those lessons and we build upon them. And now, even through instinct and through normal human behavior, you're not going to make those mistakes again, hopefully. And if you do, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Not gonna fool me again, like Bush says.
Wow. There's so much. It kind of gives me Ponzi scheme vibes a little bit, if I'm honest. Like as you're speaking, like a little bit. Like I'm playing devil's advocate. I want to have the real conversation. Like this is stuff that people have said to me. It feels like a Ponzi scheme. Like all of this that I'm asking you is what conversations I've had on the street with people to have this conversation.
And they're not incorrect, but they're not also correct.
But this is what gets me. What? Okay, go.
So here's the thing. It's like saying that. It's like saying this. All laptops are in it for, and me personally, so I will stand by the statement saying all laptops are intelligence collection devices. All they do is collect information about you, and now your privacy exposed. And then you say to me, Jason, you're talking about all laptops, and I say yes, all laptops are intelligence collection devices. And we don't talk about the function of the laptop. We don't talk about the fact that you can process Word documents, that you can look at websites, that you can do all this other stuff. But because so many people have been scammed on this laptop scenario, and because I'm a security person, I'm going to speak through a lens of my expertise. And I'm going to stick by and say, yes, it is true that laptops are intelligence collection devices. However, there are other more robust capabilities within this laptop that may negate the negativity that some people have experienced. That's where we are. Is it a scam? Is it a Ponzi scheme? It has the propensity and the potential to be a very elaborate and very functional Ponzi scheme. But in that same vein, that 1% of Ponzi scheme vision that people see it through, the lens of which they see the NFT industry, if you will, through that Ponzi scheme look, they're not looking at the 98% or the 99% of other options, capabilities, and innovations that it has the potential to changing our lives. And unfortunately, that's where we are. I really like in my heart of hearts for you and everybody else who's not really familiar. And I'm not saying you're not, I'm saying anybody who's not familiar with the NFT space, don't allow the headlines to dictate how you feel about it. Understand that NFTs are not an image, it is a technology. And that technology has the capacity to change the way we live our lives. However, the way we are using it right now is only for very small for it's highly focused on only generating revenue. Small portions of it are. The rest of the communities are trying to build things and make our lives better. It's just like the human system with nuclear weapons, right? We have nuclear technology, NFT. We have nuclear technology, and the nuclear technology has the ability to not only create perpetual energy to do science that we've never done before, but because humans are humans, the first thing that we went through or went for with nuclear technology, or one of the main things that people know nuclear technology for, is its destruction capacity. And that's not what all nuclear technology is used for. There's medical applications. There's so many things that we can do with it. But because we're humans in a certain silo living in a certain era, we understand it to be, oh, well, I can blow people up with it and it wins wars. Well, okay, well, that's one thing. But you could cure cancer, and you could also possibly solve AIDS. Or, of course, I pulled that out of the sky. But that's the same way that NFTs are being postured right now. It's being postured that way because news sells. So when you turn on CoinTel or Binance reports or Yahoo Tech, and you see NFTs, you're only going to hear about the blue chip stocks like the Bored Apes and the this and the Moon. You're going to hear about those big ones where people are selling it for $50 million and there's no way to identify that person. And then you're going to hear about the scams. You're going to hear about the pain. Very rarely are you going to have a news agency or anybody on a platform that is widely digested that speaks to all of the wonders and the magic of NFTs. And that's specifically why I'm going to NFT NYC in a few days. And that's why I'm speaking there on the same topics we're talking about now, because I see the potential and I also see the danger of people not fully digesting what its capabilities are and then pawning it off or just charging it off to being nothing but trash when it's so many things you can do. So many ways that we can change the way we vote. We can change the way we run our political systems. The transparency of the blockchain, on top of the fact that you can tokenize different elements of this technology to provide validation of work, validation of utilization, validation of a geographical location. There's so many things that we haven't allowed our brains to fully immerse ourselves into to create the various innovative capabilities that the NFT community or the NFT technology is capable of. Just wait for it, is what I say.
So, okay, I'm curious to know. I released a podcast episode this week about cryptocurrencies and the scam and everything like that. Researcher from Tenable, great guy. Long story short, someone responds with, "Oh, but cryptocurrency is worth nothing now, as per the stock market." So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Okay. So that person, whoever said that, they're seeing the market through a certain lens. What do I think about the crypto market? Is taking a dump right now. It sure is. Absolutely, it is. Why is it taking a dump? Well, there's about 15 main variables that are establishing it's the bear market that we're in. Number one, the lack of regulation in the crypto market has opened up the channels for lots of let's just use the word scams. Lots of people claiming to do one thing but not doing another because the transparency, while blockchain provides transparency and the open ledger technology, a lot of people aren't really effectively doing their research. A lot of people are blindly investing and they're getting into situations that they know nothing about. Then you have the accountability aspect of it too. Look at Luna, and I don't hate not to mention Luna because what's going on with Luna, which was a very big crypto project, and they're not the only ones, but for all intents and purposes, they had a technology, they had a cryptocurrency that was pegged to the dollar that was allegedly only would never go below the value of the dollar, and it dumped down to like 25, 30 cents, and then it tanked. The whole system crashed. Why? Improper algorithm construction, improper valuation. It's I'm gonna say something I might regret, and I'm okay with it because I stand by everything I say. But you're looking at cryptocurrencies are a relatively new situation created by a relatively new generation with high intellect. This generation that's creating these algorithms, they're geniuses. The creativity that they have with the development of the mathematic formulas that create the values of these cryptocurrencies that they establish. However, they're still, and I mean this with respect, they're still kids. They don't have the maturity, the experience, and the tenure in the space of finance or in economics to say, well, this is the experience-based feedback or retribution if, or this is the experience-based decision that I'm making on creating this. And if it fails, here's the fail-safe. The fail-safe in this space is the Wild Wild West. No regulation. There's no real oversight. Yeah, while the SEC does what it does, the cryptocurrency market right now, I believe it's making its correction into a space where it's going to have more regulation, more expectation of responsibility to the people that invest in it. And unfortunately, that's going to create an element of the market where people are going to be dismayed by it, because one of the fun things about certain aspects of crypto is its anonymity. It's the ability that you don't have to go out and give up your first name, last name, the whole KYC, AML. You don't have to give up everything about your identity to hold or possess it. That's that was one of the attractive portions of it. You go out there right now and try to buy 1,000 stocks or 2,000 stocks of Apple without your name. That's going to be impossible. You have to give up you have to give a pound of blood and 2 ounces of flesh just to be a part of that system. In crypto, what entices people is, fast gains. And anytime you have high risk, a high reward system, you have high risk. So that's one thing. Number two, it's not really established itself. It's not really, there's no serious agency, no serious integration into the economic situation that we live in. So you're dealing with a lot of speculation, hype, and advertising. And that's part of the reason why it's crashing. And I believe that every market should crash so that it can correct itself and be more resilient in the future. So to that person, if they want to be the person that they are, which, making the statements that they have, by looking, from a bird's eye view and saying, oh, it's all, it's falling down, it's crapping. Well, yeah, it was kind of supposed to. In order for any economic, technological system to be resilient, to be stable, to be a finite establishment in our reality, it has to fall. In order to become whole, one must become broken, and that's the Tao Te Ching. And I believe that. I believe that this breaking of the system is going to make a correction. It's going to make it more resilient, and we just have to give it time. And that's me being very positive, but I'm also basing it on past experience with all technologies.
No, I do agree with you there, and I think, like I said, it's economics. It does. I mean, things can't keep going the way they're going. Like, there's so many articles out there, especially in Australia, like $8 or $9 for lettuce. Like, you serious? That's crazy. Like, we haven't seen this stuff in our lifetime. But then I guess it's going to crash, and then it's just going to wash through. It's just going to take time. So I do agree with you. But one of the things I was curious about is, you said obviously if you buy stocks in the stock market, yes, you need to have your identity and all of that. But you're saying the attraction towards like crypto, for example, is people want to remain anonymous. But why would they want to remain anonymous? For me, that just feels like a breeding ground for criminal activity.
Mm. I'm gonna answer that question with an experience. So just full transparency, I am a part of the, what do you call the ape community? Yes, my business partner and I own Bored Apes, right? The the relevancy of this story is this. A year ago, my business partner reached out to me. I was, in the islands. I think you've seen some of my posts. I was out in the islands doing my meditation sessions and really just working on myself and establishing more elements of my business. And I get a call. I'm on the beach. He's like, Jay, check this out. There's this thing, NFT stuff, man. I need you to do some research and write a report on it, please. People need to know about NFTs. And I literally said to him, I said it off the cuff. I was literally coming out of my yoga meditation, and I thought before I spoke, but the first thing that went through my head, like a Rolodex, like a screenplay, it was like all the news articles, just to your point, that I had read about the scams in it. And I responded with this: brother, are you serious? The only thing NFTs and crypto is good for at this point right now is money laundering. It's unregulated. It's unmonitored. If you wanted to, if Pablo Escobar was still alive, he would have a field day with this, because he'd be able to move all types of money through laundromats, or technological laundromats. Laundromat is the key word for money laundering here, or the engine rather. And that's all it's doing. Why do we need to write a report about that? And his response to me was the same one I'm going to give you, or something along the same vein. Remaining anonymous is a feature that can go both ways, just like crypto and NFTs. Anonymity is freedom. It's the ability to do and live in your truest form without oversight and regulation. However, all freedom comes at a cost. All freedom comes at a cost of whether or not that freedom is leveraged for the better good or for nefarium. That's a choice that we make in all our lives. The laptop that you use right now, or this computer, the system that we're using right now, can be used for this radio, this podcast, or it could be used to facilitate or strategically organize a hit on somebody. What we do with the mediums that are available are up to us. Because anonymity, and I know I'm butchering that, but because anonymity is, synonymous with nefarium on certain levels, and I can understand that. Most people think darknet, it's nobody, it's anonymous, it can't be tracked, but it's also freedom. It's also the ability to possess wealth without organizational or governmental oversight. It's the ability to enact change in systems where regulation and surveillance are a mainstay, and the ability to navigate those waters uh, in stealth. That's a freedom. That's a power. And I'm not talking about any anarchy or political systems. I'm saying this: if you look at the ability, or think about the many times that people don't want to identify themselves based off of their ego, emotions, ideology, racism, genderism, all of those different separatist or separating qualities, because identity is associated with it. Your ability to have a voice without a name sometimes gives people more power. Your ability to transfer money or move things freely without regulation gives you a lot of more freedom to do the things that you need to do to accomplish the tasks that you may want, whether or not that agenda is in line with an institution like a bank or a government organization, or that agenda is about something personal, about your life, about being free and your ability to express yourself and make choices about your life and your body that only you should make choices about, not some government. That freedom comes with a cost. And in this case, that anonymous activity, while it may have been baked in ovens of negativity and nefarium by the perceivers of others, but it also is the backbone of a lot of innovative and future, innovative technologies and capabilities that we've never seen before. Talking behind a shadow and behind a mask is a good thing and a bad thing, depending on what side of the road you're sitting,
Wow. Well, I guess I can't fault your answer. I think it's still, this whole thing does still get to me a little bit, I'll be honest. But I mean, I wanted to have this conversation. I wanted to bring someone who's in this game, like yourself, to share some of people's questions. So, like, this is what this platform's about. It's about asking the question. I'm just facilitating. I'm not here to dictate or make judgment. I'm just here to ask the questions people want to know, and it's up to people to make their own decision about what they want to do. Still, I'm still I'm on the fence about this one. So I don't know. Give me some more time. Really, really loved your insight, your frankness, your honesty, your realness and your rawness about the space, because I think that's what we need, and that's why this platform exists, to give people a voice, to talk through their thoughts. And I want to ask real questions and hard questions and get real answers. So thanks, Jason. Thanks for coming on the show.
I appreciate being here. It's always an honor and a blessing to be here with you. I appreciate what you stand for and what KBI is doing, bringing the voice to the people. I love it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope that you found today's episode useful and you took away a few key points. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast to get our latest episodes. If you'd like to find out how KBI can help grow your cyber business, then please head over to kbi.digital.
This podcast was brought to you by KBI.media, the voice of cyber.